Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tired F1 Pod with me, Amar, coming to you in the aftermath and reaction of the update to the drivers' market that just happened not too long ago. So, surprise, surprise, we learned that Esteban Ocon has signed a multi-year deal with Haas to join young Ollie Bearman over at Haas and with his old engineer in Ayo Komatsu. So this news doesn't come as a surprise to anyone. We've been hearing for weeks now that there's been mutual interest on both sides, especially in the aftermath of what happened at Monaco between Ocon and Pierre Gasly, and learning of Alpine's displeasure and the subsequent news that Esteban would no longer be continuing with Alpine next year. This news certainly doesn't come as a surprise. In fact, Ayo Komatsu himself, a couple of weeks ago in the team principals press conference, indicated that he would like to pair a experienced driver with Ollie Bearman, and that he has some connections and ties to Esteban, and so that he holds him in high regard. So we could have seen this coming. So this is hardly surprising news. And as much as this solves one piece of the driver market puzzle, I'm not quite sure that it changes some of the big pieces that are still out there. But nonetheless, this development is big in that you now have at Haas a team that is moving forward and at the moment ahead of where Alpine stands in the standings, and by all looks of it, seems to be well put together to have a great finish and a great 2025 season, has now decided to put not one but two new drivers in there. And so paired alongside Ollie Bearman will be Esteban Ocon with a driver that has significant accomplishments, especially in regards to having won a race, having three podiums, having had multiple occasions of being in good, strong point scoring positions. So Esteban Ocon by no means is a driver to be laughed at. But as we all know and have seen over the course of the years, he tends to be a bit of a difficult teammate to get along with. Just ask Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, maybe even Checo Perez going back to the Force India days. So this will be interesting in that we have seen what Ollie Bearman can show us. We saw it as early as in the second race of this season back in Jeddah. And knowing that there's potential there with that young up and coming teenage driver in Ollie Bearman, it's going to be really interesting to see how him and Esteban get along in a Haas that seems very competitive and that is in point scoring position. We saw this year that Kevin Magnussen greatly aided his once rival Nico Hulkenberg in trying to get valuable points for the team. Can we expect the same out of Ocon? Can we expect the same out of Ollie Bearman? And what happened? So for me, what's interesting in this pairing is that Haas do have a solid driver pairing, and you can call it a W as of today, in that Haas have secured two drivers that can take them in the future. One young in Ollie Bearman, the other one very experienced, very tenured in Esteban Ocon. But the real question is, what happens when there's a flashpoint, and when will that happen? I think we should note that while Esteban has developed this reputation for being a tough teammate, he does have a very cool story to him. Esteban comes from very modest beginnings in life, and his path to F1 is certainly admirable. He doesn't come from a very well-off family that had all the resources, and there's been great stories about him that have been shared over time. So his journey is quite admirable, and his tenure in F1 in and of itself is remarkable. So I think to some extent, his reputation for being a, what do you want to call it, a teammate killer, might be a little bit harsh. We do know that the driver in Esteban that is known across the paddock in press conferences and in talking with individuals, whether it be from the media or from the fans, is an upstanding guy and a really friendly face to get along with. But then something happens when the helmet goes on and he has this competitive fire, which sometimes, and some drivers would say, is slightly over the edge. And I think the clearest example in that is what we saw at Monaco, where by all circumstances that was Alpine's home race, given that there is no more French Grand Prix. So Monaco being their home race, and to see Esteban pull off that very ambitious move on Pierre probably didn't serve him very well. And while we had known that he might be leaving Alpine anyway, I think that sort of set into motion certain things far more quickly than that. But be curious to know what you all think about this move. Do you think that Haas has hit the ball out of the park? Do you think that this is a good move for Ocon? Do you think that they're gonna him and Ollie Bearman are gonna get along well, or are they going to have some flashes. And we'll be curious to know. Let us know in our comments what you think about this. What I'd like to also pivot to again, given that this is a driver's market puzzle that has just been completed, is what still happens to the other vacancies. And of course, the big fish, as we all know, is one Carlos Sainz, multiple race winner with Ferrari, race winner this year as well. And Carlos still seems to have all his options on the table. And at least as of today, there are no more than 4 options that are available to him. The first one being, of course, with Mercedes. That probably is the most coveted seat right now, given that Mercedes has found its form. They've won 2 races. They seem like they're in the mix every single week, and that in 2025 at least, they can be very competitive. And then even beyond that, with the new engine regulations, you can see them being very, very competitive and right up there. The question for Sainz, though, is does he join them on what would in most likelihood be a 1-year deal? Oh, by the way, this is a seat that seems to have opened up again in recent days, largely due to Toto Wolff letting us know that he might be more open to Sainz joining Mercedes, perhaps on a 1-year deal. And that Kimi Antonelli, while excellent right now, may not be ready to make that jump to F1 himself. And Kimi himself has raised concerns about that as well. So does Carlos take that sort of seat at Mercedes, even if it's only for a year, and then look at other options year after? That's a very interesting choice. The other choices are quite obvious. The other one is with Audi now, and with their recent development of bringing Mattia on board, Carlos's former boss. That does seem to make it a bit of an appealing choice for him. Although he has publicly indicated that Mattia's signing has no real impact on his decision. He has to be thinking about what Audi is doing behind the scenes. He probably has great insight into what they're doing there. And he might find that to be a more favorable situation and a long-term deal to land with. Williams still remains a choice for him, as obviously indicated by James Vowles as well. Certainly, they seem to be waiting on an answer for him while also evaluating other options. And that is yet another option for him. And then his final option, of course, is to join the now vacant seat at Alpine and join old Flavio. And with Alpine's ambitious plans, which include perhaps getting the Mercedes engine, which could make Carlos feel very, very happy about his chances of getting back to the front of the field and possibly competing for race wins, podiums, and maybe even championships. All of this still is up for play, and it seems like Carlos still has quite a few decent choices to make. So we expect that we will hear Carlos announce a decision over the summer break, if not by the end of the summer break. But all of this makes it interesting. So tell us again, what do you think about it? What should Carlos do? Should he consider joining Mercedes, or should he join either Alpine or Williams and have a chance at being maybe somewhere in the midfield or slightly above? Or should he go in for and work with his former boss, Mattia, at Audi and resurrect what appears to be a tricky phase in that particular project? Thanks again, as always, for listening. Tell us how we're doing. Please hit the subscribe. Please like. Please comment. Please let us know how we're doing. And we will see you again soon.